you picked a movie about trauma and grief and not dealing with your past.
Yep.
I spent the last 7 years of my life living out my wildest dreams. Bianca, Rocky, my dad. This was built on their shoulders.
To start off, I've never watched a single Rocky movie. It's one of those things because it's been so long that there's so many parts now that you've added Creed 2, like
9 movies in total.
yeah, it's a lot to get into. I had no expectation. I honestly didn't think I was going to like this when Julian suggested it.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. I didn't quite like the setup.
Right.
I mean, overall, what they accomplish in it, I like.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt that there was 2 time jumps, and I felt that it was very jarring for me because we had already established in the last 2 movies Creed's kind of troubled past.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing it again for me was a little bit of a slog to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was new material and it was showing his best friend that they
Mm-hmm.
kind of shoehorned in and never mentioned up until now. So, which is fine. They do that a lot. They do that where like a new villain from his past. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. My point is, though, the setup phase was a little bit of a slog for me and a little jarring doing 2 time jumps because basically what they do is 2002 him and then Creed 2 because it's shortly after Creed 2 where he's retiring is his last fight. And then they do another time jump of like 3 or 4 years later, him as a dad kind of just in his retirement, he runs a gym.
Yeah.
All that to say, it was a little bit jarring and a little bit of a slog.
Mm-hmm. And me, I appreciate it, having not watched any of the movies. Seeing the, we got the past where he's a kid, and we established the relationship between him and Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
And then, so then jump to Creed 2.
Yeah.
Because we need to see him fighting Drago.
Yeah.
You see an opportunity, you go after it.
Because of their friendship and respect for each other that pays off in this movie.
Yeah, I mean that's I think kind of part of the pro and con of having seen all the movies leading up to this, but also needing to set the tone and set the stage for people who haven't seen any of it.
Yeah.
Because this movie is very accessible for people that haven't seen anything before. Because it's a compelling story about repressed trauma and living in the past.
Yeah.
And so,
I guess not even living in the past, not even acknowledging your past.
running away from your past.
Because running away is the theme.
Yeah, exactly. He's running. He constantly runs away from his past. He doesn't want to acknowledge it. Anytime his wife brings up something that has to do with it, he bottles it up and he's like, "No, he shuts down and
deflects,
which is a very masculine thing to do." And
this is important.
Yeah. It is important. It's a part of his growth. I would say that Jonathan Majors' introduction I liked, where you don't see him from his face. You see him walking, and it's this very kind of like he's got a menacing kind of feeling.
Hey, my man, can I help you?
Let me get an autograph.
Nah, I ain't signing the autographs, but you get off my car.
You don't remember me, huh?
Damian.
To set the stage for those of you that haven't seen the movie, his character gets out of jail. Like, the whole story is his character gets out of jail, and he looks for Adonis Creed, his lifelong best friend, for a little bit of help, because he wants to train to be have a shot at the world champion. But his introduction was nice. The pacing is kind of slow until the midpoint, and then after the midpoint, it's like bang, 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 bang.
Basically, in a nutshell, Jonathan Majors comes back, and turns out he's basically using Adonis Creed. He's created a situation like Creed's like, "Hey, I'll come on to the gym, I'll help you, I'll train you and whatnot."
Yeah.
And then there's a party, and he basically Jonathan Majors has set up someone getting Tanya Harding'd. So, oh no, there's no one else who can fight the champion, but
What about Damian?
Damian.
Yeah.
And then he wins. I don't want to say he doesn't really fight dirty.
I
I want to say he's very observant because they set this up with Creed in the beginning.
Yeah.
In his last fight, the 2002 or
2000
or 2020, whatever it was. When he's fighting, he's like noticing the guy isn't protecting his side.
Yeah, and
he goes in, noticing he doesn't protect his side, and then when he makes his moves, I feel like Jonathan Majors does the same thing.
He does. So he does play dirty because he elbows him in the face, and he does things like he punches his arm, like several times.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to weaken the arm or get the person to the point where that's his good arm, and so he can't use it as
well, yeah,
much.
because after the end of the first round, he does essentially the same thing he said, same thing as Creed. He sees them icing his arm, and that's when he starts going for the arm.
He goes for the arm. But the only dirty move was him elbowing him in the head, in the cheek. That was a dirty move. But you know what? It's not even that he's dirty. He's ferocious, and he doesn't stop. And he just dishes it out and dishes it out and dishes it out. And it's just showing that he fights hard. He fights hard and fast.
The trainer, whose name I cannot remember, he says,
Damian's fighting the world, and he's trying to hurt people.
Yeah. It's kind of like in The Dark Knight. He's like, some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of like...
because Damian has a chip on his shoulder. Because he essentially watched Adonis, live his life.
Yeah.
Because he was a potential championship boxer.
He was,
before they had this altercation with I'm going to jump ahead, the person who used to abuse them while they're in a group home.
Yeah.
And this is where we set up the runaway, because Creed runs away and Damian gets caught. And this image of running away plays an important thing.
It does.
Before the final act. Yeah. And this is why it's very good thematically, because you've got Creed trying to bury his past, and then Damian shows up and brings it all back up. And he's living in two worlds. He wants to be the person who believes he's worth what he has, but he has this long-standing guilt.
Yep.
And of course, Damian believes that Creed is living his life.
It's very good thematically. Jonathan Majors, Damian, is the perfect mirrored villain for Creed.
What he could have been.
Yeah, so Creed he's living a lie, not only in that he's trying to run away from his past. That's part of him living a lie, but he's also living a lie in that he retired, and he keeps telling everyone, no, it was the right move. I've retired. And there's a scene where he's driving past this Ralph Lauren, this huge billboard that's on the side of this building, and it's him. And they really stay on it a little bit, and it's really showing us that that is just a facade. He got all of these sponsorship deals and stuff like that, living this fake life because he regrets retiring. He regrets doing that because he feels most at home in the sport that he as a boxer.
Another thematic element, because they have him and Tessa Thompson. Once again, I probably can't.
Tessa Thompson.
Tessa Thompson. I mean, I remember the actors' names generally, but the characters, it's a bit hit and miss.
Yeah.
They have a daughter. She's deaf. She's in a special school.
Very good actress.
Very good. Oh, but everyone is so good in this.
Yeah.
But one of the other kids rips up her drawing and she beats her up, and then they get called to the school, and the whole thing between Creed between Michael B. Jordan and Tessa Thompson, where she's like, fighting isn't always the answer.
Yeah, knowing when to fight is.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's once again another thematic element that we've set up, because right now he's not fighting.
Yeah, no,
that's the whole thing. He's also not fighting.
He's reactive. That is a really good little addition to kind of building the thematic elements.
Yeah,
I like the big midpoint. Not only does he beat the living crap out of this the guy that he was for the championship belt, and then wins the champion. He's now world champion.
I had to draw the line. I'm just getting started, little brother. I had to draw the line between my brothers and my enemies. I'm coming for it all.
But not only that, Creed finds out that he may not be, as supportive and as he always kind of let on, and that in prison he made.
But I think it's very telling. I didn't think about this at the time, but after Damian wins the championship and Michael B. Jordan or Creed, pardon me, goes to confront him.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't need you, man. Look around, I don't need you. He's got this whole posse with him, and like, okay, so this is showing, not telling, that he had this network of people that he had met and cultivated over during his time in prison.
It was good though. It really does solidify him as a villain, because until that point he seemed very appreciative and he was quiet and he was appreciative of Creed's help. And then after the midpoint, his true colors come out, and he sees Damian for who he really is, and then the mother, who has always warned Creed about Damian, she tells him, listen, she shows him the letters, and that's when he finds out that he's friends with the person that broke the guy's hand. But not only that, she then dies,
right?
Which is, you were saying, the
whiff of death.
Yeah,
because we're getting to later in the movie, and it's that whole thing. The character has to lose everything, and then they do the dig down deep, so they can do the final battle. But you have to lose things.
Yeah, exactly. And what it does is it pushes him to have the discussion with his wife and really explain to her everything about his childhood and why what's happening with Damian is significant right now, and tells her about how they were abused, and he's vulnerable here, and he's really letting his emotions out.
Something is going on with you.
Damian was like family.
One day he came back. The past came back too.
There may have been a time when Damian had your back.
No friends in the industry.
But that's not what he's doing now.
He's not gonna stop.
Then you make him. Don't let him destroy everything you've built. Everything we've built.
There are several moments where the ultra-masculine men express emotion.
Yeah.
And sadness and even tears, and how important that is, but we'll talk about that more.
We'll talk about that later.
But what I want to say is that, so he eventually realizes, after talking to Tessa, she's like, do what you have to do.
Yeah. So
he challenges Damian to the world championship title.
Yeah.
And then he has to go through training.
Yes.
And he has to, this is where we bring Drago back.
Yeah. And he trains him.
Yeah, because they start with the mask on, not the mask, but their gear. I don't know the proper names. And they're fighting, and Creed is like kind of all over the place until so he falls back, and then we have this image. He flashes back to the past of him as a kid running away, because right now he wants to run away, but he also still sees himself. He doesn't see himself as a complete man. He still sees himself as a child, like Kingpin in Daredevil.
Yeah.
And this imagery is so very, very good. And then he and that's when this is when we get in every movie needs a montage. He takes off his headgear. He's like, let's do this. So he is committed 100%.
Yeah, and it's almost like the montage has its own full structure, as if it's its own movie.
Yeah,
because it does. He does. He trains up. He gets ready for the fight, and this is where it's like. That's why we were saying after the midpoint, it's like bang, 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 bang.
In this case, though, it's deserving of it because of all the stuff that was established leading up to it. So you set up all the dominoes.
Yeah.
You play, anyone who does that, you spend hours on the dominoes, and then it's over in 15 seconds.
Now that we're about leading into the final fight, I want to talk about Michael B. Jordan's directorial style for this, because it's very important to me. So, this is his first film as a director, which is it's a very bold film as a first director, because you have 8 other movies and a fan base waiting for it. So there's kind of a lot to ride on here for him. He does a really good job, but he brings an element to it that hadn't been in it yet until now, and I really like it. So he mentioned in one of the interviews that anime is one of his biggest inspirations, and the way he directed that final fight scene, and some of the fight scenes earlier, but mostly that final fight scene, there's a moment where they kind of both focus, and they're fighting, and then the entire auditorium, everyone disappears.
Yeah,
and it's just them, and it is just that they are two equal foes, and they're fighting, and they show that they exchange hits, but no one's really winning.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really good because this is something that's done a lot in anime, and the way it's directed as well. But then the stylistic choices of the prison bars showing up.
Yeah. We talked about that. It's like okay, I understand what you're doing here, but it's a prison of your own making.
But I like that he chose to do it this way. Like, this is not something that we had seen until now in the Rocky franchise. And this is really not a Rocky franchise anymore. This has evolved into its own thing, which is a good thing, because after 8 movies, I think you do need to change it up.
Yeah.
This is how you do it, guys. Instead of in Scream 5 and 6, this is how you change up the franchise and give it new life. He gave it a very unique and inspired directorial vision with taking anime as its inspiration. And he's not fighting Damian. Yes, Damian is the foe. He's fighting his repressed trauma and emotions from his past. He's fighting his past.
Yep. The very subtle use of the Eye of the Tiger riff.
Yeah, it was there. It was.
Was that in the montage or in the?
No,
fight?
It was in the fight.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I heard it too, and you mentioned it to me. I was like, "Oh yeah, that is. It is using Eye of the Tiger." No, it was very, very good. Very good final fight scene. My initial thoughts when we did the review the first time was I wasn't a huge fan of almost how anticlimactic the final fight was for me. Like, usually in these boxing movies, it gets to the point where our protagonist is almost going to give up, and they're injured and they're bleeding, and it's just really, really, it's like, oh, are they going to, they're on their last life. But they didn't do that because it's not about that. It's about the thematic elements that they had set up, which is, again, fighting his repressed trauma.
I do like that his, once again, I cannot remember his name.
Yeah.
The coach, trainer, whatnot.
Yeah, which is his
coming in
brother.
the 12th round, he says, "You're boxing. I need you to fight."
Yeah, exactly.
You out there boxing. I need you to start fighting.
That was good, and again, he's kind of he's an impact character.
Because early in the movie, he's the one who says same one who says like he's fighting the world. Like everyone's telling Adonis, but because he feels so much guilt and shame, he's not listening to them, and that's how he gets into this situation. But yeah, I understand what you're saying about anticlimactic, and I get that. 'Cause I felt that way about a completely different subject, the end of Voyager.
Yeah.
There's a big thing. They're fighting the Borg, and then they're home.
Yeah.
Which is what we wanted the whole time. It's like, huh.
We did it.
So yeah, like in a traditional movie, like there's the big thing, and they fight. They get the crowds cheering and whatnot. But this had the double ending.
Yeah, it did.
And this is what I want to talk about. He goes to see Damian after the fight.
Yeah.
And they sit down and they very briefly talk.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any tears down the cheeks, but there's watery eyes.
Yeah.
As, Creed apologizes and Damian says it was never your fault.
Yeah.
They both achieved catharsis.
Yeah, and they make up at the end. And it's
exactly.
like it's a hopeful ending.
Yeah, so
because,
and then that's the whole thing about it. It's why it's enough of this toxic masculinity fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Normalize men having feelings.
Yeah.
And in this case, these two very masculine men, top of their game, built, everything you expect from an alpha male that doesn't actually exist, but that's a whole other conversation. And they actually feel, and we need more of that.
Yeah, I agree.
And then it ends with the family.
It does. It ends with the family. They're in the ring, and he's teaching his daughter how to fight. Just like they kind of fight each other, kind of jokingly, and no, it was a really nice ending. Very, very solid film. Very good first directorial debut from Michael B. Jordan. He's clearly taken cues from some masters, and he also, again, he took cues from anime, which is really, really interesting, and it's a unique way of doing this, and I really, really appreciated that. Yeah, he it's a great film, very, very good watch. I 100%, if you want to have a good time at the theater, you want a good, emotional, powerful film, this is a good one for that.
Yeah, because I think this isn't an action movie.
Yeah, no.
There's a couple action scenes for the boxing.
Yeah.
But this is a family drama.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really, really good film. 2 thumbs up. 4 thumbs up.
Yeah. Once again, because I went in having no expectations.
Yeah.
And in fact, expecting, I'm not going to like this.
Yeah.
It was a pleasant surprise. And I could stand to see more.
Mm-hmm.
More Michael B. Jordan, more
Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors. I was going to call him Jonathan Kang again. Jonathan Kang.
Jonathan King.
Jonathan Majors he really is a standout. Tessa Thompson, everyone just so very good. Everyone's on their game.
Yeah.
Would recommend.
Yeah.
I need you to let go of your fear. Let go of the guilt. Let go of whatever was and walk into what is.
I feel those chains are breaking, yeah. I fear God, I don't fear death. I see those stripes and take a step.
Okay. We will see you back next time for
Shazam!
Shazam!